Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Infield Report. My name is Isaac, alongside my older brother Tyler over there.
Hello.
We're here with another episode, another week. This weekend was actually full of NASCAR action. We had Bristol was on the docket on the schedule this week, and like I said, we had all three series that were there. Great racing overall. Short track fun yet again. It was eventful in some series and others not so much. I will say the truck series was probably one of the most entertain, or I would put it as maybe the most entertaining race of the entire weekend. There was just so much that was going on throughout the race, and uh, towards the back half of the race, there was a lot of yellows, which I know the fans may or may not have liked. It all depends on what you like to see. Uh, again, I'll jump ahead a little bit, but Kyle Larson said in his post race interview after the Cup race that, and this was just referencing the Cup race, but he said that the fans want chaos. It's what they want. I don't know. Do you at these short tracks? Are you in the mindset of give me chaos or give me good entertaining racing? Both. Where do you stand on that?
I don't mind a little bit of chaos, but like with the trend that's been going on for years, especially in the playoff format, we don't need chaos every single race. We don't need it every single Bristol. But there's got to be a little bit of sustenance uh, when the race is going on. Yeah, I want some passing. Yeah, I want some bumpers to bumper. I want, noses being rubbed a little bit, but don't need it every week. It just it's like the story over and over again about the championship doesn't need to be 1992 every single year, and we we don't need Darlington 2003 every year either. We
No.
we we love those things, but they need to have a special place either that year or that week. So a little chaos, that's great. And I think the Cup Series, I would have liked it to have a little bit more, but I think it sat okay for me. It was a decent race for the Cup Series. For the O'Reilly Series, it was to me a little bit more boring. There was
Yeah.
there were some there were some hotter moments, but and then the Truck Series overall, I think had a good balance of some mellow moments and big moments.
Yeah. It was like I said, the truck race was pretty fun. These guys, with them being a bit younger and prone to tempers flaring a little bit more easily than the Cup guys or even the O'Reilly guys. Um, there's a lot more. Um, how do I phrase this? There's a lot more that can happen, a lot more things that can boil over much quicker. Not just because the races are shorter in length, but also because some of these guys don't have very long fuses. But um, again, you just get that like with everything being shorter, you're in such close proximity to each other, and you're battling every single lap to try to improve your position because it's not easy to pass at Bristol. Um, again, I'll go back to you racing sim and stuff like that, and I've raced on video games in the past and whatnot, and I know it's different now than what it used to be, but with Bristol and the like it this year in particular, I don't know if it's just because I noticed it more, but there was more opportunity up high to pass in all 3 series, really. It seemed like you were able to run the high line, and actually some guys were able to diamond it much better than others to be able to get those runs coming out of the corners and be able to build up the speed and dive in the corner and continue to diamond and things like that. And I don't know if it was just me, but it seemed like there was a lot more of that this year, um, in all 3 series. But the veterans in the truck series definitely showed that. It's why you had a Cup regular and Christopher Bell getting the win. Again, he's not running full time, so he's not going to get any points for it. Uh, but he just showed, and it's in that Halmar Friesen truck. And I had mentioned at the beginning of the year that they look miles better than they did last year. I don't know if that's because Stuart Friesen was able to, once when he had his accident last year, middle of last year, if he was put a little bit more focus on the personnel side of things, or if certain things have clicked. I don't know what it is, but that team, fantastic run so far this year for both of them, both the 62, I'll call it their all-star rotating truck, and then Stuart Friesen himself getting a 16th place finish. Again, normally he probably would have had, I mean, maybe on the fringe of a top 20, but he was running well throughout the night. And again, his other truck getting the win was proof of all of the effort that they've put in. And it wasn't just an early season fluke. I mean, I know we're still only a handful of races into the truck series season, but I mean, that just shows that there is legitimate speed in both of those trucks. But again, Christopher Bell coming away with it. A Cup Series regular Chastain was in there. Kyle Busch, Hocevar, Briscoe, Suarez, Stenhouse. I mean, there were, I believe that was 7, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there were 7 Cup Series regulars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, my brain was telling me more than 7. There were 7 Cup Series regulars that were running the Truck Series race. And so I think that just also kind of helped flare some tempers a little bit more, because these younger guys or the not even necessarily younger, but the Truck Series guys, I think, saw what these Cup Series regular drivers can do. And obviously, when you see these guys come down and run in these races, it makes you want to improve your own craft and um, do as best as you can. If you were in that position, if you were, let's just say, a Truck Series regular, Tyler, what would you, how would you approach a race with those guys coming down or running a race against you?
I would probably give it probably a third, maybe the first stage. How you're performing, what they're doing. I wouldn't copy them exactly, but I would try to see what they're doing. Like, hey, they're running higher, or they're diming it, in two rather than four. They're entering here, they're exiting here, they're putting this much brake in, they're coasting here. I would have that feedback, and then I would try to adapt that to my driving style. And then that way, by the end, you're behind them, in front of them, or you're matching their lap times. And then when you come back, if there's a second race or next year, you can come back, and it's just a little bit easier. So having the Cup guys and the higher series guys come down is great, but I think we're seeing a little bit more bushwhacking, and I kind of don't like that, but I understand. Dale Jr. said it best. The Truck Series and the what's now the O'Reilly series. I think I accidentally called it Xfinity series, but the O'Reilly series, they weren't really supposed to be a ladder series. I believe the Cup series was supposed to sell the four doors. The the B series is supposed to sell like your sports cars, and then the Truck series was to sell trucks. Now that has turned into the ladder series for somewhat reasons known and unknown. But anyway, having them come down to effectively the lower series can be a good thing and can be a bad thing, but I would try to see what they're doing. Is it different from my style? Is it close? Is it far away? I would take it as an opportunity to learn, because when I go on to sim racing, it's like, oh, I think I'm doing really good hot lapping. Then someone's 4 seconds faster than me. It's like, okay, what the heck are they doing? And let's see if I can match them, and then I can actually get kind of close. But that's my driving style. That's my philosophy. I know everyone's different.
Yeah, and I think it was definitely a good opportunity for some of these guys to learn from the veterans and find ways to run the track that they maybe wouldn't have thought about otherwise. Um, you also wonder too what feedback they were getting like during practice or especially during qualifying when you do those hot laps and you're able to see how they can maximize their speed, kind of figure those tips and tricks out. Uh, I mean, again, good learning opportunity for a lot of these guys, and it was fun to watch on TV for sure. Getting to watch these guys just kind of battle it out, and again, they're not afraid to go door to door, bumper to bumper, or you know move somebody out of the way just to get the position because every lap matters. And when you're running, very quick lap times, those 250 laps tick away fast. So your sense of urgency is through the roof, especially when the stages aren't very long either. So it's one of those things where you want to get to the front as fast as you can. These guys are willing to do a lot more and they're a little bit more impatient, which I think does create some very entertaining racing. There was some uh, unfortunate cautions and unfortunately timed cautions that did affect some guys' runs. One of them I felt really bad for the man promoting his own TV show reunion. Good old Frankie Muniz, unfortunately, wrecked his own castmates and smashed his own castmates into the wall on lap 115 and didn't finish the race. But still pretty cool to see Malcolm in the Middle back on a truck, or I should say on a truck, period. And the fact that Malcolm in the Middle is back with I think it's a 4 episode reunion. I haven't seen any of it yet, but uh, not sponsored. Don't want to be sued. None of that. But still, cool to see that. Unfortunate the way that his day ended, but again, some unfortunate cautions. One of them we would be remiss not to talk about was the man that it involved the man that would have won $500,000 this past weekend if he won the race, but unfortunately he did not. That was Corey Heim and unfortunately Christian Eckes as well. There was late in the race, uh, Corey Heim was trying to dive down to the bottom to get a run going into, I believe it was turn one, and just misjudged. Or no, I lied. It was Eckes that tried to dive down, um, make the dive into one, and just misjudged it and clipped the back end of Corey Heim and sent him spinning. But I believe there was some initial contact earlier. Either earlier in the race or earlier within the last like 10 laps prior to that. I can't necessarily remember off the top of my head, but there was contact between the two of them. There was kind of a disagreement, and unfortunately, Eckes apologized after the race too and said he misjudged that 100%. On the broadcast, a lot of the discourse was it was kind of just a racing incident, misjudgment. Uh, from your vantage point as a viewer, but also as a guy that, again, I'll allude to this again, the sim racing stuff. How did you view that incident? Was it a racing incident or was it a little bit of retaliation, a little bit of both?
When I first saw it, I thought it was on purpose, and I was a little hot under the collar. Then I kind of saw what he was doing and his line. And after the race, I kind of went back and go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you misjudged it, but it's really you guys were that close going into turn one. You probably could have backed off a little bit, gotten a little bit better run. But If he says he didn't mean it and Heim was okay with it for the most part, that's bygones be bygones. Just don't let it happen again.
Yeah, and it was tough to see that because it took out another good truck in Caden Honeycutt, another Tricon truck. Um, they were looking pretty strong all night. Matter of fact, the Toyotas just in general looked pretty good, but the the contact between Heim and Eckes, like I said, I think Corey Heim even said after the race, he said, I probably had it coming, so he wasn't too upset about it. Um, but it was still unfortunate for those guys and not the way they wanted their night to end. I was at the tweet up with Bob Pockers from Fox Sports and Jordan Bianchi, and I actually did ask Bob about. There were some rumblings about Tricon potentially trying, maybe applying for a waiver for Corey Heim if they could get him to run more races and potentially get him a waiver to be eligible for the chase. I think most of that was fan rumblings, just because he was leading the points or tied for the points lead after last week at Rockingham and he'd missed 2 races. But unfortunately, for all you Heim fans, uh, it does not sound like they're going to do that because he's only got a certain number of races sold. And I mean, you could argue that the additional 350,000 he would have won had he won the race this weekend. Bob had mentioned that that probably would have paid for maybe another race, but it wouldn't have been enough to cover the rest of the season or most of the rest of the season. So, unfortunately, he will not be getting that, or they will not be applying for that. It sounds like Ram most likely will apply for one for Corey LaJoy. I believe he only missed like 1 or 2 races as well, and I mean, is he going to make the chase? I don't think so. But the the things I've heard is that they will apply for the waiver for Corey LaJoy in the 10 truck because of the Daniel Dye situation, and I believe he would be eligible if the waiver is granted. So we'll see on that front. But if we want to shift to a Ram driver that did really well in the truck race, Brendan Queen actually finished 10th. He was the only Ram in the top 10, but he had himself a great day as well. Obviously, finished all 250 laps and was able to um, just run a clean race, which I think is needed. He's also a short track guy too, so he's got the skill set to do that and run really well, and that definitely showed. Again, getting a top 10 finish when you've got 4 Cup guys ahead of you, I'd say is pretty good. So that's always a good thing, especially for Ram getting some positive momentum back. They had a rough weekend at Rockingham, so this is a good rebound for them. Chevy had a lot of guys finish in the top 10 as well. You had a couple veterans. You had uh, three Cup guys in that top 10, but you also had guys like you had Christian Eckes, who was involved in the dust up with Corey Heim. He finished 5th in a Chevy. Dawson Sutton in 7th. So they were able to do pretty well. The Fords, I mean, they looked decent. Chandler Smith, who again is a guy that I think front row can definitely build their camp around. He finished 2nd. Jake Garcia for Thor Sport getting a 6th place finish. So there was a good variety in the top 10 for sure by manufacturer, but Christopher Bell did come away with the win in that race. The O'Reilly race was, like we said, a little bit more I don't know how you wanna put it without saying boring, but kind of boring. Uh, Kyle
Meltdown.
Larson Kyle Larson had, he led 230 of the 300 laps, very similar to what he did in Darlington several weeks ago, but could not come away with the win. Is there something like is there something mentally where you sweep the stages, you lead a bunch of laps? Is it hard to go out there and finish? I mean, especially in the O'Reilly series, but like, is there something about that? I mean, that to me, that shows that it's difficult to get the job done. But when you see him leading all these laps and not getting the race win, what do you think about that?
One, it can be mental fatigue. Two, it can be just not your driving style. Yeah, you can dominate, but just putting together the ending is can be difficult at times. Um, Especially with Kyle Larson, he hasn't won in any series whatsoever at Bristol. That might just be his nemesis track. He can, ride
I will
around.
fact check you real quick. He won that race last spring. That was the first race after his former PR individual, John Edwards, passed away. But
Yeah, that's
I
right.
believe
But
it's his only win.
I mean, he doesn't perform. He doesn't finish where his stats say, like his lead, his laps led and his lap times and such. Just putting it together needs to be a little bit more consistent. But going back to how difficult is it? It can be. It can be a nemesis track. You can win at it. Just need to put a little bit more work in to, like I said, finish the race and put you need to make sure you need to finish where your performance has been all day.
Yeah, and it was very I will say that the ending was very fun to watch between Larson and Zilich. Zilich got the race win, spoiler alert, but, um, watching that battle late was super fun because, Zilich was just he was running his line, he was defending very well, and he was running as good of a lap as he could without making a mistake, and Brent Cruz was actually the one behind him at one point, towards the end of the race there on one of the late restarts, and Brent Cruz pushed it a little hard, got in the wall. That, unfortunately caused him to fall back a little bit, and Kyle Larson got by Brent Cruz. So Zilich already made one guy make a mistake. So all he had to do was run his line. And I say this to myself when I'm watching them on TV all the time. When they're leading, it's like you've just got to run your line and force them to make a mistake. It's a lot easier said than done, obviously, as a couch driver. But, he did what he needed to do. Zilich did. He ran his line and he made Kyle Larson push it. Larson pushed the issue, got loose. I believe it was with like 2 laps to go and just couldn't get back to his bumper, and, uh, Zilich drove home with it, and, it's battles like that that if you know what you're watching for, especially at these short tracks, watching these battles is a lot of fun. It's just in the O'Reilly series, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of that throughout the race. It was only towards the end of the stage or at the very end of the race, but sometimes that's just kind of the way that the cookie crumbles. Not much we can really do about that other than just watch the race. And sometimes you zone out until you go, "Oh, shoot, it's the middle of the stage 3 already. Let's lock in and watch the rest of it." But, it was pretty decent. Again, nothing crazy happened. I mean, we did have a driver substitution. The 42 of Logan Bearden, he did not finish the race, but Brad Perez was at the race and he had his racing suit and helmet and was able to hop in the car and go. So that was, I guess, an eventful thing. We also had a car catch on fire too, I believe. I think it was the 91 of Mason Maggio that caught fire.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. All I saw was he came down the backstretch smoking something crazy. He comes into the garage area and is on fire. Um, what I know there wasn't much that we saw, but what were your opinions on a fire at Bristol like that? Because that's not the first. I mean, I saw Josh Berry go up in flames in the fall, but what are your thoughts on a car on fire at Bristol?
It might be some rubber buildup somewhere where it kicked up underneath where the engine block is, or between the frame and the engine, or near like a fuel line or something. It happens, but that's something that the teams probably have to look at and go, was it our fault? Was it just were we falling too close to somebody? Hopefully it's a freak accident, because you don't really want that happening at every single track or every single short track, because that's a design flaw.
Yeah. Well, officially it's listed as engine. So from what I heard on the broadcast as well as they were talking about, it was definitely just an engine expiration. I mean, not much you can really do about that, other than just examine what happened, what the possible failure point or points were, and just assess and move forward. But good to see Mason Maggio get out and he was okay. He was pulled out by I think a junior motorsports guy. So the fact that these guys were willing to get him out as quickly as possible and were as quick as they were to respond, I think was really nice to see. Especially, I mean, again, car on fire. You never know what's going to happen with that, but you want to make sure that the driver gets pulled out okay, and uh, he definitely was. So good to see that. Um, again, just besides those few things, it was not as eventful, not as full of storylines, if you will. Just kind of a another Bristol race. It wasn't, like I said, nothing special, nothing really memorable, just kind of another another spring race at Bristol in the O'Reilly series. The Cup series, on the other hand, was still very entertaining to watch. And again, it's one of those where when you're in person and you're watching things, you know you can see what battles to look for and what you get different people all around you that are pointing out, "Oh, look at this over here. Look at this over here." And I mean, you can't necessarily hear them, but you can see out of your peripheral, or you see people pointing, and so you may be locked onto one thing, but then something else happens on the other end of the track, and it's fun to be a part of that and w- get to experience that sort of stuff. And uh, it was really fun to watch Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney duke it out throughout the race. Both really fast cars in their own rights. And it was fairly late in the race where Larson and Blaney were battling. And I think Blaney was in the lead at the time. And he was in the middle of one and two. And he was on the bottom where that PJ1 resin is. And he couldn't hook the bottom or something like that. The car shot up and he had to let way out of the gas, and that allowed Larson to come flying through and pass him. And so it's little entertaining moments like that throughout the course of the race that made it pretty entertaining. Um, coming up on lap traffic, you would see some of these guys that um, they would get caught up in that, and it definitely wasn't intentional by any means by lap traffic. Like behind me, I've got the Larson and Blaney and Suarez blocking Blaney a little bit. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't think so. But you got to think there was some manufacturer alliance maybe going on there, but nothing terribly egregious. But definitely entertaining for sure. We had Ty Gibbs getting his first career win, and it's super funny because at the tweet up with Jordan and Bob, we all got talking a little bit about who would get their first career win. Would it be Hocevar or Gibbs? And I, not necessarily super confidently, but I had made a comment and said, there's two sides to this coin. One, who's got the better equipment? Probably Ty Gibbs. But who has the better upside at the moment with the trajectory of their program and the way that their year has gone so far? Hocevar. I was proven wrong this week. I will admit that. And it was really fun to see. Um, and I've never really been much of a Ty Gibbs fan. I'll be 100% honest with you. Just I always thought he was like an arrogant kid. As the internet calls him, the nepo baby. I mean, his grandfather owns the company, but like he's always had the talent that's there. Um, he showed it in the Arca series. He showed it in the Xfinity series at the time, and the lack of time in the O'Reilly series, I think, he was pushed up to the Cup Series so soon because of all the talent he had, but because the two cars are so different, there was a lot of there was a bigger acclimation period than what I think they thought. But now that I think this is his 134th career race, and he finally got a win. Um, I mean, well deserved for him, I think. Again, his mom being there and his mom getting in the car after the win. And Ty made a comment after the race and said something about he thinks his dad was watching, or he wishes his dad was there. Like that was something. So it was pretty fun to see from your vantage point from the TV. What did you think of the Cup race on Sunday?
It had some moments. It was more average than exciting, but there were some moments on pit road that made things interesting. Ryan Blaney's team once again out to lunch. I think they're still on Easter break. I think they had
Oh, I
almost
didn't
4 or
think
5 weeks of a Easter break, I think, but
I think they're still
well,
mentally in the off season, unfortunately.
yeah, I think there's going to be personnel changes here pretty soon. That if I was Penske, it's too long. It's too many mistakes. Something's gotta happen. Either pull the replacements or start switching people around. That can't happen anymore.
Yeah, and I'm gonna quote Reddit here because and take this with a grain of salt, but I'm fairly certain this is accurate. But somebody had made a comment that Ryan Blaney's pit crew before this race had lost him like something like 80 plus spots on pit road, and he lost like almost another 20 this weekend. So it's got to be above 100 ish now spots on pit road. But there are certain limits you go, okay, it's been how many races in a row where I mean, I don't think he had a loose wheel this week, did he?
I don't think so. I
And
think
not
it was just
necessarily
time.
that, but like
I think it was just more timing issues and so many spots lost on pit road. There was a number. I think he lost like 30 some spots. 20, 24, 26 spots.
yeah, and I mean he ended up finishing second and he had the fastest car on the track all day by far. I mean, just watching him run, number one, he knows how to save tires. Not that tires played a massive factor in the race, but they were a decent factor. And so when you get to that point of if you're running low on sets of tires, or you're you get a short run and then a long run, and the way that you preserve your tires early in the run to be able to use them later, like he's always been pretty good at that. But you can't rely on your driver to bail out your pit crew all the time. Like when you lose 30 plus spots on pit road, that's unacceptable. And or 20, I don't think it was 30, but 20 plus spots on pit road in a single race is absurd. And with him running the fastest lap, and you know, the only thing that cost him the win was his pit crew, unfortunately. And that's why pit crews are so important, is because of things like this. He was lights out. He didn't lead the most laps, like that went to Larson, but as far as speed throughout the day, long run speed, that was Blaney. Whether it was being able to, find the right lines to, or being able to have the grip in both lanes, he had that. So Penske does have to do something about the pit crew issue, because, like we said, with it being dang near every race this year that there's been an issue, whether it's been loose tire, which I think is just, it's been 3 or 4 races. I think at one point it was 3 in a row. You gotta do something. You gotta make a change. Uh, but again, it is what it is. Um, I believe Penske's gonna handle that in-house. So hopefully they figure that out. As I'm not necessarily a Ryan Blaney fan, but I'm not a hater either. I wanna see him do well. I think with this new format, I think it favors him as well. I think he's one of those guys that can be consistent if his pit crew also helps him out. But,
Going back to the
again,
picture thing, if it was anything like mechanical or equipment, it would've been resolved already. So it's gotta be personnel, either timing or someone's not practicing enough or something. Something's gotta give, and I think it's time for a shuffle.
yeah, I think it's a couple weeks overdue, unfortunately. Um, I know they had an off week in there to kind of figure some things out, iron out some things, but w things we didn't have a loose wheel. Again, I'm gonna point back to that, but that being your saving grace, that cannot be your saving grace, is, "Oh, well, we didn't have a loose wheel this week." Great, but you still lost 20 plus positions on pit road due to timing issues. So, there's gotta be some sort of analyzation of what is going on, whether it be, any timing issues or whatever it may be. There's gotta be something done, for his sake. But, um, again, just a rough day for him. Even though he had the speed, couldn't get it done. Um, a couple of drivers that weren't too happy at the end of the race. Kyle Busch wasn't very happy with, Riley Herbst there. It was I think it was just over the course of the race, the way that they were racing each other just kinda ticked Rowdy off just a bit, and he decided to ship, uh, Herbst into 1, and just decided to end that whole thing. Um, and I think Eric Jones wasn't too happy with, I believe it was Kyle Busch. And so there was a couple of drivers that didn't leave Bristol too happy. Unfortunately, well, I will back up a little bit. Fortunately, Alex Bowman came back this week. It was his first race back since his vertigo symptoms showed up at Coda. Unfortunately for Bowman, he finished dead last, involved in an accident fairly early in the race, and just couldn't. couldn't do much with what he had, and I believe just out of safety, they took him out of the race. They said prior to the race that it was expected he was gonna run all 500 laps, and there was no standby driver available, or they were not planning on having a standby driver. Whether or not they ended up keeping, Allgaier around, I don't know, but it was definitely not Bowman's day, but it was good to see him back at the track, especially after the couple weeks he was away. Uh, it was kind of emotional. I don't know if you saw it, but it was on Saturday in his first press gaggle, since his return. Um, he said when he got out at Coda, he thought his career was over. And I can't even imagine what that is like. I mean, I know like Dale Jr. had his concussions that he had, unfortunately, and like I know Bowman's had a couple concussions, and now there's this vertigo stuff that he had. Um, what would like if you had something happen like that to you, vertigo or something like that, where it caused you to miss a couple weeks, like that's got to be emotional, right?
Yeah, he had that concussion at Texas about 3 years ago when the this generation car came out. And if you have those vertigo symptoms, you think, "Oh no, it's my concussion. Oh no, it's the Dale Jr. saga all over again. My career's done." Yeah, I don't blame him for being real emotional about that, and thinking that he's got to resort to being behind a mic and he can't really be in NASCAR anymore, especially at one of the top teams ever in Hedgehog Motorsports. So I am glad he's back, but yeah, you got to kind of be careful in the future. But really nice to see him back.
Oh yeah, for sure. I hope next week at Kansas, uh, he's got a better shot at it. Mile and a half, I think, suit him a lot better. And plus, Bristol is such a tough track anyway, as is. And then this being the first race back after several weeks off and trying to recover from, symptoms of vertigo, I can't even imagine what he was going through. But not that, not that Kansas is an easier track, but it's a little less physically demanding than Bristol. So hopefully there he can put together a better effort and actually take a positive step in 2026 for once instead of being dead last in the points and dead last in like every category. Unfortunately, it just hasn't been his year, but uh, here we are hoping for the best for him and moving forward. I mean, I know he's been dealt a really crappy hand for the last couple years, and so I hope things start to go in the right direction for him. But it's it was tough to watch, but good. Regardless, good to see him back at the track. So uh, let's go ahead and quickly. I'll say quickly, but we'll go ahead and recap some of our points situations for the week as they sit now. Chandler Smith actually sits first in the Truck Series points now. He is 1 point, singular point, over Caden Honeycutt for the lead. Corey Heim, who is ineligible at this point in time, sits tied in third with Lane Riggs, and Christian Eckes with his fantastic, what do we say, fifth place finish this week, um, has jumped up into the top 5 in points in the Truck Series. So good to see a couple new names surface in the Truck Series points. For the O'Reilly Series points, Allgaier continues to run away with it for now. He's 130 points above Sheldon Creed, who is in second. Jesse Love is in third. Corey Day with another great finish. He's a driver that I think we'll probably talk about here in a minute. Is in fourth, and Carson Quapple is in fifth, not too terribly far behind. Second through fifth is only separated by 40 points at this point in the season. So, again, this is where things start to get a little interesting with everybody. Like I said, we've got Kansas coming up. We got Talladega coming up. Talladega is going to throw everything for a loop, I think, once we get there, because it's another super speedway, kind of a crapshoot. You might have like your Austin Hills, towards the front of the pack, but that's if he doesn't get caught up in a wreck, which can catch anybody up. So that's going to shuffle some things around. So we've got a kind of a good idea where these guys are at right now, but just wait a couple weeks and things are going to shuffle. But in the Cup Series, we've got Reddick still out in front of Blaney, but the gap has shrunk a little bit. It's only 62 points now instead of whatever it was. It seems like a million when the season started. Um, Blaney, like I said, is in second. Denny, he had another great finish this weekend, inside the top 10. He's sitting in third. Ty Gibbs, with his win, jumps up to fourth, and Chase Elliott rounds out our top 5 in the points for the Cup Series this week. And I think it's time for a segment that is definitely becoming one of my favorites. I don't know about you. Maybe you're kind of partial to it because you created it, but I think it creates some good discourse for us.
Well, especially around this time of year, I think we're going to get into the little bit spicier, maybe lava hot takes. So, and well, we all know the winner gets the glory at the end of the day, but not every story ends in victory lane. Some performances deserve to be hung on the fridge, others you'd rather kick to the curb. Welcome to Fridge or Trash. So let's start with the truck series here. Who is your fridge driver?
I mentioned him earlier, and I'll throw his name out there again because I think he's a driver that, with a new manufacturer, a new team, well, not a new team, but a new manufacturer and a lot of support behind him, he can do really well, I think. Plus, he's a fan favorite. Butterbean coming home with a top 10 finish, and just being able to run a clean race, especially at Bristol where it's rough and tumble. You're booting guys out of the way and things like that. He held his own very well, and was able to, like I said, come home with a 10th place finish. And just, it obviously wasn't going to be the cleanest truck, but if you come away with a clean truck at Bristol, I think you might not have done something right. But who is your driver you would like to hang their performance on the fridge for the Truck Series?
I'm going to have to go with Jake Garcia. Looking at his finishes here, he has some ups and downs, a little bit more of a downtrend, but Rockingham he did really good, and then he's got a sixth place this week, 62 points behind, and with an average of 15.8. That's a really good performance. What year is
Oh,
he in again?
I believe he's in his second full-time season, but he's been with ThorSport as a part-time driver for quite a few years now. I think it's like 4 or 5 years. It seems like he's been around a lot longer, but I think he's only been doing this full-time, I think 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, he did. I've been watching him every now and then. I see this Garcia name kind of go up a little bit and staying up in the top. I'm starting to become a fan.
Yeah, he's a kid that I think, can definitely do really well. A lot of people know him as, and I was guilty of this as well, uh, knowing him as the guy that replaced Haley Deegan. So, um, this is I just went to Racing Reference here. He was part-time. He only ran 5 races in 22. He ran all but 1 race. He did not run the 500 the Daytona race in 23, but he ran everything else. and he's run full time ever since. So this is his what is that? It, I'll classify 23 as a full time year. This will be his fourth full time year, but fifth year overall in the truck series. All with well, not all with, but uh, most of it being with Thor Sport. So he's definitely a kid to watch out for in that 98 truck, especially since Thor Sport, just in general, has been really consistent over the course of time. But if we go away from consistent to inconsistent or lackluster or whatever other synonym you want to use, who's the performance you'd rather toss in the trash this week from the truck race? I believe you're muted again.
I am so sorry for muting all the time. I'm probably going to have to say Lane Riggs. He was in the top 10 for a while, then he just dropped off. I can't remember if he got into an incident or not, but it was just not his week this week. I would I would hope coming back to Bristol at the end of the year, he flips this around.
Yeah. And I mean, he was only a lap off the pace, but he was the first truck a lap down. So it kind of a kind of a tough pill to swallow, especially after the year he's had. Um, even if we just go back 12 months to like his first career win at Milwaukee and all the emotions and things that he's been going through, just continuing to go up into the right, and then to have a race like this kind of sucks. But I think you need a race like this every now and then to kind of get a mental reset and kind of start fresh and just push on through, and I think he can do it. It's just gonna take a little bit of something to get through it. Um, I think the unfortunate performance going in the trash this week for me is gonna be Grant Enfinger. He's typically to me, he's such an enjoyable guy, and I love listening to him because he's got that good old Alabama accent. Fun to listen to, but and fun to watch race. Unfortunately, 27th place ain't gonna cut it. Again, as a veteran that's been around the sport for a while, he's always been one of those guys that punches above his weight, especially for the team he's on. But this week was just kind of rough, getting in the weeds of things and not having the best start back in 18th. When you start in the middle of the pack like that, it's kind of hard to work your way forward and um, get any sort of momentum built over the course of the race. So, unfortunately, he's going to have to be the one I toss in the trash this week for the truck series. Um, if we flip things back on its head once again and go to the O'Reilly series, uh, who's a driver you're proud of for the way that they performed this week?
There's quite a few here. Everyone's kind of falling into line where you'd kind of normally see them, kind of like they're around their average. So it's kind of hard to pick per se, but I'm going to stay on the Ryan C type train. He came in 11th. It wasn't a top 10, but looking at his past 5 or 6 here, 33rd, that was a whoopsie, but 13th, ninth, 11th, average of a 16.4. He's doing really good. So if he keeps doing that, just putting in really good top 10s, top 5s, and staying where he's at, I think he'll make up his 268-point difference.
Oh yeah, and I mean the good thing is in this chase format, they'll take the top 12, and if we look at where they all sit in points right now, he's currently 13th. He's 28 spots back of Taylor Gray in 12th. So it's again, I know it's a little early to be talking about the chase now, but 28 points is a pretty solid spot to be sitting at right now. I know obviously you want to be in that top 12, but I think for him, the 33rd kind of I think might be what that deficit is, but it's manageable. And with a couple of his good tracks, he's been fairly decent at Kansas over the years. And I mean Talladega again a crapshoot, but I think he's always had really good speed there. Uh, Definitely keep an eye on where he's at in the points, and we'll have to keep an eye on him for sure. Uh, that's one I agree with as a fridge driver. Another one I'm going to point out. I'll point out two here because I think it wouldn't be fair to not mention him, but also like he's such a talent. I got to give Brent Cruz his props. I know we talked about him earlier as well, fighting for the lead with Zilich and Larson, but he was wheeling the heck out of that car this weekend. Um, didn't necessarily lead a ton of laps. He only led 3, but what he was able to do, especially late in the race, putting up the massive fight he did, it's only a matter of time before he becomes a regular winner in the O'Reilly series. And I mean, he's a star to Toyota development driver for sure. He's got speed behind him as well. Running great cars, can't complain about that one bit. Um, Another one, I'll put his teammate up there as well, Taylor Gray. Not just because his car owner won this weekend, but also because I mean he's continuing to show growth as well. He's always had some sort of skill at short tracks, and he's continuing to hone his craft, continuing to dial things in, and his performance this weekend definitely showed it. So I'm very happy to see him up at the top as well, especially kind of watching him and his brother back when they were both in the truck series was kind of fun, and now watching Taylor work his way up and fight his way, I think is kind of fun. Um, who's a guy that you would unfortunately toss their performance in that trash can?
Probably gonna have to probably hark on Austin Hill. I know we try to not hark on the same drivers, but his trend is going down
Well,
from
his trend may
Martin.
be coming down, but I mean, we've got Talladega coming up, so I don't know.
If that's starting to be his only strong suit, he's got to pick up the pace somewhere. I'm not an Austin Hill fan. I'm almost the opposite. But if you're if you're one of the top dogs in this series, you got to show it. You got to show up every week. I know that
Yeah.
sometimes teams can kind of hinder you a little bit, but come on. He's been aggressive early in the year. I don't know if team management or PR spooked him or whatever, but where is he?
Yeah. Well,
He's
and
not
that's the thing
he's not
too.
ruffling he's not ruffling feathers every week.
No, and like his teammate Jesse Love did miles better in 12th, and I mean, as much as some people may not want to admit it, based off of the point system, Jesse Love is a champion. Like, so I mean, it's not necessarily an equipment thing. There was a something I had seen, is Austin Hill destined to become an O'Reilly Series lifer? Um, that's something we can dive into later, but I think definitely with his performance this weekend did not show the Austin Hill that I think everybody knows. Um, but I'm gonna go with the driver that was one spot above him in 20th. Not necessarily just because he was a spot above him, but because I know he's got better in him. Sam Mayer was running fairly well throughout the day. He was able to get a handful of stage points, but a 20th place finish for him too. I mean, it's kind of rough. That Haas factory team, like Sheldon Creed, his teammate finished 5th. I'm sorry, 6th. So just late race stuff. Unfortunately, um, Sam Mayer getting pushed, to the back and or to the middle of the pack, excuse me, and just couldn't quite get things going in the right direction at the end of the race. And that's kind of the struggle is stage points are great, but you got to get end of race results as well in order to build those points up. So I mean, you're getting what is that 5 stage points for finishing ninth and 8th, but you got to be able to get place points too. So it's kind of a hard thing, but again, I know he's got better. I know Haas factory team has much better, again, as evidenced by Sheldon Creed, and with Sheldon Creed winning his first race of his entire O'Reilly Series career this season. That one's also not an equipment problem. I think it's just getting out of his own way. And the fact, I mean, he did come over from Junior Motorsports last year to, or 2 years ago. So and they switched over manufacturers as well. So it was for him, he's back to Chevy, but he was Chevy, Ford, and Chevy. So I think there's just a little bit of reacclimation period for him. But like I said, I know he's got better in him. Just kind of a tough week at Bristol for him. So who was your minus Ty Gibbs? I don't know your thoughts on Ty Gibbs, but minus him, who is your best performer, fridge performer of the Cup Series this week?
I'm going to say Todd Gilliland with an average finish of 22.9. He came in 6th. And he was
Yeah.
doing, you know, because in Martinsville he came in 23rd. But I think he was involved in an incident with that one. But even Darlington, where he's decent at, he also came in 23rd. So to bounce back and have a top 10, that is amazing.
Oh yeah, and he's a good kid too. Getting to meet him at Martinsville was really fun. Just getting to talk to him and getting to actually see the human, not just the driver, was a lot of fun. And then seeing him come back with a top 10 was pretty cool. Um, I don't know if he's necessarily one that I want. I mean, I'm gonna put him as my fridge driver anyway. But Ryan Preece as a short track guy, coming in 8th, great great run for him throughout the day. Uh, Again, coming away with a top 10 and showing that he still got the skill at the short tracks. I mean, he was slicing and dicing and finding ways to run on the track that not a lot of guys could. He was leading the charge in some ways too on changing lines up and running certain certain lines and stuff like that. So he was doing really well for himself, and uh, he was the top finishing RFK driver as well. So um, being able to hold that over his teammates is also kind of a win for him. But again, like he showed it at the Clash, and he's shown it throughout his career that he can do short tracks. He can run really well. I think that he didn't have the speed, obviously, but just being able to put together a consistent performance throughout the day was very good to see him do, and uh, getting that top 10 was, I think, much needed for him. So um, definitely definitely fun. I know you said you had a couple hot takes or a couple questionable takes. Um, I didn't know if you felt comfortable sharing your comfortable takes or not, but
I'm not going to
if
shout
you're
this one
safe
from the
to.
rooftops per se, but my trash driver this week, Ryan Blaney. I think this is the time to really hark on your team saying, "What what the hell, guys? What's going on? team owner, do something. Crew chief, do something. I'm working my ass off out here. Sure, yes, I came in second. That's great. I'm getting good points. But this pit stop situation, how many wins is that thrown away? Good results and wins and points and positions. That's not gonna that shouldn't fly anymore.
No, not at all. Especially when it's been 100 plus positions, I believe, if Reddit math is correct, 100 plus positions on pit road. Not plus, minus 100 positions on pit road. If that math is correct, that is absurd. Um, just something's got to be done about that. Whether you're Penske or whether you're competition director, whether you're whoever the heck you are, you got to find something. And I know we talked about it at length earlier, but something's got to be done. The one, my my trash driver has got to be, and just coincidence sake, one of his good friends, Willie B, got to put him in the trash this week. Just started from the back and couldn't find anything in speed. He was lapped pretty early on. He finished 5 laps down. It says something when, no offense to these guys, but it says something when you finish right above Cody Ware and right below Ty Dillon. Um, just rough weekend for them. Again, no speed. It seemed like he was never really that comfortable in the car, not that comfortable with the car. Uh, Again, just kind of a rough day. I mean, minus Larson, the rest of the Hendrick stable kind of had a rough day. I mean, Chase Elliott in 22nd, like I said, Byron in 30th, and then Bowman dead last in 37th. I mean, just kind of a rough weekend for them coming off a week off. So Kansas, I know, is going to be a little bit better weekend for all of them. Uh, so it should be a good rebound week for them. But Bristol, not so much. Not so much a good week for them. But good.
Yeah,
I
little.
won't say that your Blaney take is what's that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think your Blaney take is a hot take. I think it's a little spicy. Um, I mean, I wouldn't. I would almost put hit for me. I would almost put him on the fridge performance. Him as a driver. The problem is, I would separate his driver performance and his pit crew performance, because if it was not for his pit crew performance, he would have won the race, and we wouldn't necessarily be talking as much about him just because his car was lights out all day. But unfortunately, his pit crew brought him back down to earth, and was the reason he finished second, I would argue. But um, you know, his performance, I would put his driver performance separate. Another one I kind of want to shout out, just because I feel like it's well deserved. Daniel Suarez finished 12th. Um, Not necessarily known as a short track guy, but being able to put together a very strong performance this week in Bristol, which, like I said, is not necessarily his strongest track, but being able to come back, Martinsville, like I said, that one was kind of a tough one. And kind of showed why he's not a short track guy. He finished 20th there, but 12th place at Bristol, and he was, playing lap traffic a little bit, as trying to block Blaney a little bit. I think he'll be okay. The rumor mill surrounding him is not necessarily that great as far as keeping his job next year. But if he's performing the way he is, he's still fighting for a job somewhere in the Cup Series, I would imagine, for next year. But that's something we'll definitely have to keep tabs on throughout the course of the season. But yeah, he's my I would put him as my second fridge performance of the week, just because I think it's well deserved to mention him. So there's a couple things that we may or may not have missed throughout the course of this episode. And if there is anything we missed, let us know down below. But there was something that came out, well, something we haven't talked about as much, which is kind of a back burner topic at this point, but it's kind of coming to the forefront now. We have the Joe Gibbs versus Spire, Chris Gabehart lawsuit nonsense going on right now. Um, and if you haven't been tracking, we'll do a separate episode on this at some point. But allegedly, Gabe Hart stole or took pictures of proprietary data or something from Gibbs. He took pictures of a lot of stuff at Gibbs, and as part of his contract, he is not allowed to work at another company or at a competitor in the same role, which is competition director. Well, apparently, Gibbs as a company saw Gabe Hart at Bristol this weekend with a headset, no microphone, but a headset, radio, and was in close proximity with Carson Hocevar throughout the weekend. So they allege that he breached his temporary restraining order of doing said um the you know the same thing at another competitor. Well, I saw Claire B. Lang, formerly of SiriusXM, post she took a clip of Jeff Gordon talking with Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson after the race, and said, "Well, he's executive VP or he's VP, but he's also talking with these guys. Does that classify as a competition role? Like, how do you stay out of the competition?" So it's one of those things where we'll have to wait and see, but it could get very messy very quickly if uh, they're not careful. But again, just kind of one of those things we'll have to watch and see. I'm no lawyer, you're no lawyer, kind of like we had alluded to the whole lawsuit nonsense from 2311 Front Row in NASCAR. This is NASCAR 2.0, but not as big. It's just between teams, but teams and or individual. So we'll just keep following that. We'll keep you updated as much as we can throughout that. But I know you've got some interesting trivia and facts you'd like to throw out there, so I'm curious to hear them.
Well, we don't do this every week. We might do it, but I know each week's not going to have, you know, this much content, but we'll sprinkle it in when we can.
Oh
But
yeah.
I was listening to the broadcast, and it says the last time overtime was at Bristol was 2015, and they say Ty Gibb was 12 years old.
Yeah, that was, and I will say it didn't feel like an overly long race either. I mean, I know it says 505 laps, which you look at the lap counter and you're like, man, that's a lot of laps, but they tick away super quickly. And the more you watch them race, you watch them compete with each other. It's a lot of fun. So, but overtime at Bristol, I would say well worth it for sure.
Yeah, especially when a lap is faster than you can drink a glass of water. Yeah, that extra 3 or 4 or 5 laps is almost nothing. If you
Oh yeah,
yawn too long, you'll miss 2 laps.
that is true.
But he did it in his 131st start. And looking at the picture I sent you, you might, put it up in post, but I, Oakley glasses has some nice stuff, but why are these looking like they were made with safety pins? Why?
It's all about the style, man. It's all about the style. You got to look unique, absurd. It kind of reminds me of that. Not necessarily as outlandish, but you remember Kyle Kuzma wearing that pink it looked I don't even know what the heck it looked like. It was like a weird turtleneck, and I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you gotta be outlandish to draw attention to yourself, so it's not to that level, but it's an interesting look, I'll say that much. I'll just say that much.
Yeah, but anyway, going back to the stats and trivia and whatnot, he is the 6th driver to get his first win at Bristol. But you'd think there would be more, but only 6 to get their first win? That's crazy.
Well, it's that just shows how tough of a track it is too. I mean, you got a lot of guys in the field currently that still have not won a race. I mean, granted, every track has its own challenges, but like Bristol is one of the most difficult tracks, I would imagine.
It is tough, especially when it went through a couple of. I think the banking changed a little bit, and it went through a little bit of configuration change and a huge upgrade as well. So it's going to drive different from the 70s to the 90s to the aughts to now.
Oh
But do you
yeah,
know when the
it's
last time a driver won their first race at Bristol?
it's a good question. I'm trying to rack my brain.
I'll give you 3 guesses.
Oof. I honestly don't know if I have 3 guesses in me, but um, I know Kyle Busch won his first before Bristol, I believe. So it wasn't him, but
I
Kyle
believe it
Busch
was
was good.
California. I think it was a night race in California.
I believe so, but he was good there. Um, is it a driver that is currently active?
Hmm. No.
Okay. That widens the field a lot
Oh,
for the
oh, yeah.
possibility.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a if you could give me the decade they were the most dominant.
Um, how about you guess a couple times and I'll give you some hints. Because this is gonna make us feel real old.
Uh-oh. If it's gonna make us feel real old, I would imagine it's gotta be a guy like, I don't know, like Truex maybe?
No, okay, it's not Truex. That's strike one.
Um, see, this is where you're you're better than I am because 'cause you're better at the historical stuff. I'm still trying to, work my way backwards into it. Um, oh, shoot. So, you said it's a driver that's not currently active.
But dominant at times, yes.
Dominant at times, okay. That kinda narrows it down a little bit. Um, hmm,
2 more guesses.
so dominant at times. I don't think Matt Kenseth didn't win his first there, did he?
No, I don't think he has more than 2 wins there. I I'd have to look. You can put it in post, but I can't remember if he's got 2 or 3 of them. He might have more, but he wasn't dominant there exactly. So, nope, 1 more guess. I'll give you a hint. Old. This is an old race.
Old as in, like,
Our perspective.
so this is way before our time.
Not necessarily.
You said dominant at times. The only one I can think of right now, off the top of my head, is dominant. Well, he was dominant there regardless, but I'm just gonna throw out DW.
No.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm gonna feel really stupid when you say it.
Okay. It's Kurt Busch. Can you name the year?
Oh, Lord. Don't tell me Kurt Busch, not my favorite guy.
Yeah.
Because it was against Jimmy Spencer in 2003, 4.
Close. March 24th, 2002 is when he had his first one. So the spring
Dang.
race. It's with
Okay,
his
so that was, like, further in time.
Win $1 million Rubbermaid car. But
That's
yeah,
right, okay.
they showed that stat, and I'm like, oh, it's been 24 years. Oh, no. So that
Oh,
shows that Bristol is predominantly a veterans track. So I would probably bet 95 out of 100. If you're gonna, I'm not condoning gambling, but if you were to put all your chips on a driver, I would probably do a veteran driver that's been in for probably 8, 12 years plus.
yeah. Now that you said it was Kurt Busch, I feel really stupid because I did see a lot of that on the internet. I don't know why it slipped my mind, but yes, because there was that wasn't necessarily what started the whole Kurt Busch, Jimmy Spencer thing, but that kind of, I don't wanna say put an end to it either, but it, because I think it was after that that Jimmy Spencer, uh, put Kurt Busch into the wall at Indy. So, it it kind of was, it was a big piece of that rivalry, but now that you say it was Kurt Busch, I can't believe that was 24 years ago, and I feel old. So thank you for that.
I feel it every day.
From your knees to your back to everything. That was,
What's
I
what's
feel
the
really
saying?
ridiculous.
What's the saying? My my back turns 36, my knees 84, but my heart's still second grade.
Yep. And my brain is still, I don't know, whatever it was, 8, 9 when, Kurt Busch was arguably, I don't wanna say at it, well, not at his peak because he won a championship in '04, but, um, definitely when I remember him the most was when I was, like, 8 or 9 when he was running the Miller car for Penske, but, yeah, that that was just a couple days ago. Just a couple days ago. But, yeah, it was a fun weekend of racing. That was actually the last race for me for now until the 600. But, yeah, it's been a good couple weeks of travel, but now I'm home for the month-ish. It's, like, just over a month until the 600, but we got, Kansas next week with everybody there. Everybody's gonna have a good time, I think, at Kansas. It produces a lot of great racing between all the series, and, so it should be entertaining. We don't have the trucks there, but we do have the O'Reilly Series on Saturday and the Cup Series on Sunday. Um, so it should be a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment at Kansas. So, put your money on for the Cup Series, put it on, like, Larson or Denny or somebody, or Reddick. There's the same, like, 5 drivers it seems like that could win, but, yeah, if you liked any of I'll say it again, if you liked any of the pictures in the background, feel free to go to the website listed down to my website down below, infieldreport.com, or over here at the socials. I've got them posted up there as well. Some of them are posted up there. But thank you guys for listening, watching, tuning along. Thank you for sticking through it if you have this far into the double episode, surprise double episode. But we appreciate you listening, watching, commenting, following, sharing, all the good stuff. But we will see y'all next week.